zen cafe team or more solid ground cafe team. We just thought that we'd make a video just to help you guys dial the machine in and, you know, hopefully help you get more confident behind the machine. So yeah, this video is just really gonna be focused on trying to help you guys make coffee better using the machine, get more familiar with some of the processes that are standard in most cafes, and yeah, get up to scratch in terms of serving so that we're ready for our starting date. So first things first, before we begin making coffee, we usually jump into the machine, or well, we'll sort of jump into our space. And the first thing I will do is I will run these two group heads for 60 seconds. So you just push those two buttons and you focus on the time over here. So it doesn't have to be exact. It's not really a science. Just run for 60 seconds. And the main reason for that is a lot of the time there's a buildup of water during the evening. So you kind of want to flush that out. Remember that key word from our training, flushing is absolutely essential to ensuring that the quality of water you're getting is good. So yeah, so we'll flush that for about 60 seconds just to make sure there's no old water or potentially, I wouldn't really say dirty water, but just old water from the previous day or build up from the evening. And now the same thing would apply to the steam wand as well. So you're just gonna grab one of these jugs, kind of just place it over there and open the steam wand very slightly. And you don't want to open it up too much because then you're going to get water splattering around this steam wand area, around this nozzle, which can leave marks, and I don't really like marks on the machine. It's not a great look for customers either. So yeah, you don't want to open it up all the way, just in a sort of controlled manner. And you want to do this for maybe about 10 to 15 seconds as well. So once you've done that, you just want to chuck that out into your jug rinsing station over there. Just be careful, the top is going to be a little bit hot. Not too hot. I've got pretty big hands, so it's not too bad for me. And then just want to kind of rinse that out. All right, cool. So now that you've done that, you want to jump over to the grinding station. So over here, we're just going to take this cap off of the hopper. This is called a hopper over here. You're going to grab your coffee, and now if the person who is closed before or the day before is done or closed properly, there'll be a bag right next to the grinder. We'll take that off and then just pour your coffee in your hopper over here. That's cool. In our case for now, we're just gonna keep coffee stored in the bags, but just sealing them very, very carefully until we get containers for them. So we'll just put these right underneath over here and just store them there just for the day, because you'll probably have to use them again. So thereafter, you just pop your lid on. And we know that this is a on-demand grinder, so we're not going to do anything for now. We're going to turn our scale on and we're going to start dialing the coffee in. So moving on to dialing the coffee in, this is very similar to how we would usually prepare any espresso or the first sort of step in our process to preparing a beverage. We would flush again, that keyword there being flush, just flush that group head over there. Every single time you flush, you kind of want to clean the drip tray, because what can happen over here is you'll get a whole bunch of dirt, and that could get on the bottom of the cup, and that for a customer that's pretty ugly. It's not nice feeling that. Okay, cool. So you've just flushed your group head over here. You're going to take your portafilter. This is called a portafilter. You're going to place it on your scale here, and you're going to tare. Remember the T button. All right, cool. So now that we've done that, we've already weighed our portafilter. We can actually leave it there. We're going to purge the first little bits of coffee in our grinder. Now when you're doing this, just make sure that you pull this latch on the right side here. Otherwise you're going to get no coffee grinding through the burrs. So pull this little latch over here and that will open it up and you'll get coffee dropping into the burrs over there. Now to get rid of coffee that has been sitting in overnight, what we usually do, as I've told you guys before, we'll just grind for a few seconds. Probably a little bit more because this is an old grinder. That should be enough. We'll take our portafilter and then just get rid of all that coffee that would have been stored overnight. It's quite difficult to actually get into these grinders, and so there will always be leftover coffee from a day's work, especially this little old grinder here. When we start using the newer grinder, that big Mazza that we haven't been able to use, there will be less, but it's still generally good practice to get rid of any remaining coffee after a day's work. So we've done that now. We don't want to be extracting any of that over there. So every single time we obviously using our scale, we want to be cleaning out our portafilter. So we'll clean out our portafilter. Remember placing your 3 fingers just like that and just cleaning it out just like that. We've already gotten rid of that coffee that's been in our grinder overnight. Now we can start preparing to dial the coffee in. So we'll put that portafilter back on our scale. We'll push the button to start the grinder to get enough coffee grounded. All right, cool. So now that we've finished that, I've got a feeling that this should be enough. My feeling might be very off. It probably is. We'll put that back on. Remember that our recipe is 22 grams. So we always have to have 22 grams of coffee in the portafilter. So we don't have enough here, so we need to grind some more coffee. Now we've got a little too much, so we've got 25 grams. So we will always have our little cup just ahead of or on top of our scale over there. And so what we'll do is we'll use our little spoon just to get rid of some coffee, just to make sure that we're always using 22 grams of coffee.
2 grams?
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
All right, cool. So now our scale reads 22 and that's money, as I like to say. From here, what we want to do is we want to distribute this coffee. So we want to make sure that the bed is as flat and even as possible when we're tamping it. So we're just going to knock it just a little bit like that. Don't be afraid to lose some of that coffee on the sides as well. And then you can just use your finger just to distribute it as you see fit. So that, for me, I think that's okay. And then also making sure that you don't have any coffee on the little ears over here. Now we can move to tamping. Now remember, when we're tamping, we don't want to fight with the portafilter. The tamp. We don't want to fight with the tamp. We just want to work with the tamp. So when we're tamping, we're trying to keep that elbow at a 90-degree angle as best as possible. For the case of working in solid ground, you'd kind of want your chest facing this wall over here. It makes it a bit uncomfortable for you if your chest is facing the machine. So I would say try and keep your chest facing the wall. Come in at a 90-degree angle with your elbow. Remember, you don't want to be too close. You don't want your hips to be too close to the bench. You just want it in a comfortable distance so that you can maintain that 90-degree angle. So take your portafilter, remembering to keep it over there, not like that because you can actually damage these over here. So just resting it against this mat just like that. Coming in at your 90-degree angle and tamping as straight as you possibly can. And as soon as that portafilter starts to work against us, that's when we know we've applied enough pressure. All right, cool. So moving on from tamping, we've made sure that our elbow is at that 90-degree angle. We've checked the tamping pressure. Everything is all good. We're going to move on to our group head over here. So first things first, before we extract any coffee, we're always going to purge. So we're going to purge for that 2 seconds. That should be enough. Making sure that we're cleaning that drip tray. Don't want any stuff on the bottom of the coffee cups. We've done that. We're going to put the portafilter in. We're going to grab our scale, make sure to turn it on. And then we're going to grab a cup and just place it on that scale, push the T button again, and then push that button over there for our double shot. So remember, we want to try and make sure that we're extracting 36 mils out in 30 to 33 seconds. Okay, so as we can see over here, it's taken us 41 seconds to pour or extract a double shot. Now our recipe, remember, we want to keep it between 30 to 33 seconds. That is ideal. Remember, we're allowed a bit of a wiggle room, so 28 seconds is acceptable too, or 35 seconds is also acceptable, kind of depending on the order. But the general rule, I would say, is maybe let's try and keep that between 28 and 35 seconds with that wiggle room. So we've seen that ours is at 41 seconds. So that's obviously a little bit too long. And so what that would tell me is that the particles in the grinder, the grind size is a little bit too fine. So water is struggling to get through the portafilter. And so in order for us to fix that, we need to make the grind size a little bit coarser so that it's easier for water to get through to the portafilter. So in order for us to do that, you can kind of see over here on the grinder how to change the grind size. So in our case, we want to make it a bit coarser. So we're going to make sure that we're turning it left. And make sure that you make these adjustments in very, very small increments. You don't want to be making them too big. So just a small adjustment, just like that, should be fine. All right, cool. So we're going to get rid of that shot because it's not going to taste the greatest. Clean out our cup so that we can use it again. I usually like to just give it a bit, just wipe it over there just to make it a bit dry. Take our scale down, get rid of whatever was inside of this portafilter, making sure to purge and just cleaning that out. Just make sure you can get the sides where possible. Just make sure that's nice and clean. Getting back to our scale here, put our portafilter over there, push the T button. So because we've made adjustments to the grinder, the burrs weren't set in the correct position, right? So the coffee that we grind now, there's going to be some particles that are a bit coarser, some that are a bit finer. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of those. So we need to grind a bit of coffee first so that we can kind of like reset our grinder. So we're going to get rid of that coffee. Chuck that out. We're going to clean it again, even though it looks kind of clean. And now we can start from the top. All right, cool. So following the same process that we're familiar with, which we've been taught before, we know that's kind of too little, so we're going to grind a little bit more. That should be enough. That's probably too much. We're going to check first. That is too much. That's a 24. So we're going to take some coffee out of that. 22 grams, we like to see that. Let's just give that a slight tap. What you can do is you can kind of angle the portafilter a little bit as well. That tends to help. And then we're just going to distribute that nice and evenly. You don't want to be too rough with it though. quite gentle. Make sure the ears are clean. And then get into our tamping position. Tamp nice and straight. And then again, cleaning that portafilter. Purging that there, flushing it out. And now we'll try again. So to me, it looks like this is going to be fine, but we might have to just wait and see, because this is not the only component that we're measuring. We're not just measuring time, we're measuring yield as well. All right, so our yield is currently at 35.2. There might be some tweaking to do with what we're yielding, how much water we're getting out of the group head. But generally speaking, I would be okay with serving that. It might be a little bit sweeter, but customers tend to appreciate the sweetness in coffee, or depends who you're dealing with. But I would be okay with serving that. We can see though that our time is slightly under. So that is partially due to this grinder being very old. And so we won't always get, when we make adjustments, it sometimes might throw it out a little bit too much. But I would still adjust that grinder just a tiny bit finer this time because we've gone too quickly. And then after that, we should be good. All right, cool guys. So you can see over here, 33 seconds, that's money. We'll be happy with that. Remember, keeping in mind 28 to 35 seconds, you know, and that's with the wiggle room of 2 seconds. So we'll take our cups and we'll place them over here. Okay, now we're gonna get ready to steam our milk. But just going back to our first process, we'll actually take this docket, we'll place it over here, and we'll place our shots over here on top of the docket. So we've got these ones here, we'll place them on top of the docket. So the person who's steaming milk knows exactly what they're steaming for, what milk they need to use, how many cups they need to do as well. All right, cool. So now that we've done that, let's jump on to steaming our milk. Just keeping in mind, as soon as we use our steam wand, we want to purge any water that might have been sitting in the boiler. So just purge some of that over there, get that out of there. I'll just do it again. Cool. So now we're steaming for 2 cups. So we want to use a jug that's big enough, that will hold enough milk for 2 cups. So we'll put that over there. We'll grab our milk. Might need to grab a little bit more. And we'll pour to just below the spout. That should be good enough. I need to top that up. Just need to get some more milk. Just there. That should be good. So what I like to do again is just heat up the jug that we're going to be pouring into and put it over there. And now we get to steaming our milk. So what we want to do here, remember how I taught you guys, you want to focus here on the end of the steam wand here, the steam wand tip. You don't want the tip to go, that's the steam wand tip over there. You don't want the steam wand tip to go all the way to the bottom because it's going to make like a squealing noise almost. It's very uncomfortable to hear. You want it to go just halfway. You also want the position of the steam wand to if you have to imagine like an X over there, like that, you want the steam wand to be to the middle of the jug. What I like to do to get a bit more texture is to tilt the jug just a little bit to the left and rest my left hand on the drip tray. Remember that your left hand you're using that to feel how hot the milk is going to be. So now we'll turn the nozzle all the way Now I'm adding froth, and now I'm gonna texture it. What you wanna try and aim for is just keeping a bit of like a whirlwind, almost like a tornado. See, that's texturing the milk now. And now we're feeling for the heat, starting to make a bit of a noise, and I can feel in my hand that it's hot, and that's when we stop steaming. Now we're gonna clean the steam wand immediately after. And now we're gonna get our second jug, because we're gonna split. This might take you some time to learn. It took me ages, and I'm still not that great at it. So now, because we've steamed for 2 coffees, what will happen is you'll have all the froth on the top of the jug. So you don't want to pour immediately. You want to split it between 2 jugs. You want there to be enough froth for both coffees. So what you're going to do is you're going to split into the small jug over here. You're going to pour into the small jug. Just about there is enough. And you're going to sense, you're actually going to check, oh, is that enough froth? It's probably a little bit too much. So I'm going to pour it back into the big jug. Now that is probably perfect for a flat white. Now we can pour. All right, now we'll pour. So you want to pour from high to start with, just to get the base nice. And then as soon as you start pouring, you want to go to the middle of the cup, just to pour your little heart, just like that. And then you're going to pour the leftover milk into the remaining jug. I think my milk has split, unfortunately, but... And then you're going to pour just enough to make another small cup. You're going to keep swirling it. You don't want that milk to set. And then pour to your middle. And there you have your 2 little flat whites. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure teaching you guys how to make coffee. Next video, we'll be going through the closing procedure. It's very, very important to close and clean the machine properly. And then the video thereafter, we'll be going through the different kinds of coffees. So from how to make a latte, how to make a flat white, what's the difference between a latte, what's the difference between a flat white, how to make a mocha, our recipes for chais, and all that good stuff. So stay tuned, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the next few videos.